So today we're going to do two things. We're going to do a little bit backwards because I said I got a lot done and some of that is news I want to share. So we're going to just spend a little bit of time on some things that are new, and then we'll jump into the planning. So just to start, one of the things on my list was to find a successor for me as president. I've been president for over 10 years of OCSG, and it's time to pass the baton. And so Robin, who's been my vice president for at least 4 or 5 years, has agreed to be the new president. So she will start January 1st. So the welcome to the new year email won't be coming from me. It'll be coming from Robin. Robin, you want to say anything? I know you're going to say a bunch of things in a few minutes, so we can wait till then if you want.
No, I just want to tell everybody I'm really excited and up for the challenge and hope I can help everyone feel better about their lives and accomplish more.
Okay. So we've been working on a new website, and I'm just going to give you a preview of it. This should go live at the beginning of the year. And I'm excited about some of the features. So today we're going to be going through a planning process. Well, we added a tab called Make a Plan, and each tab has information about what to do. It has videos that are relevant to them, and it may have links to all the webinars that we offer that can help you if you're working on that plan. So like there's a plan for diagnosis, healthcare. And this is just, we're still working on it. One other thing that is exciting is our resources. We're making those more available. So as you know, many of you know, for the ever since COVID, we've been recording these Monday night meetings. And so we have all our webinars here available. Normally you could get to them, but you'd have to click on a PDF document. But this will make them immediately accessible. And it's also searchable. So if you want to find something on, we'll do diagnosis again. You can find the webinars there. So it's searchable. So it'll make that a lot more accessible. And then the other thing that we've been working on is organizations. So we're trying to, all the different organizations we know of, we're trying to make them accessible to you here. So you can click on this and let's say you want to learn more about them and go to their website. But you can also, again, you'll be able to search for, let's say, so you're interested in career, and it'll have all the resources. These might be people who've given a webinar for us, or it might be just someone that we know of that offers these services. So this should make your journey of putting together a plan and needing to know what resources are available a lot easier. So we're working hard to have that done by the beginning of the year. Am I doing this part or are you doing this part? I think, Robin, you want to do the next two?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Okay, everyone. So if you've been with the group for a while, or even if you're new, you may notice that our name is outdated. Asperger's is no longer a diagnosis, and it has made in the past a lot of our members uncomfortable. So we are going to be pursuing a new name for our group. We'll still be Orange County, but we will announce that as soon as everything is final. But hopefully everyone will be a lot more comfortable and happy with our new name. One other change we're going to make is that we are going to broaden our support. Currently, we usually start helping people when they're teenagers, and we want to expand our support to include younger children. as well as people at level 2 and level 3 diagnosis. So basically, we want to support anyone who has autism. So it will take us a while to ramp up to support these new groups, but I'm really excited about that because it breaks my heart when we have someone ask for help and we're not able to serve them yet. So we're looking forward to that. Judi, did you want to add
Yeah,
anything, or we can ask
I'll
questions?
continue with this next part. So Robin and I have been looking through the services that we offer, and in order to expand, sometime, if you have a rose garden, you know that you need to trim it back so that it blooms more in the spring, and the same is true with our services. So we looked at what services people were not taking advantage of, and we're pausing those. Um, if you have a if you are concerned about this, it's not too late for us to change our mind, but it's awfully disappointing when only 2 people show up to an event. It's not, these are, many of these are support meetings and they need a good sized group. So we just looked at what people were taking advantage of, and we're going to just be putting a pause until it seems like there's a need or a desire to participate. So we're going to be pausing our women's group, and we're going to be pausing our authors series. Friends and Fun, for those that have participated in it, we've been offering it for 2 years. It was put together in response to us winning a bid with the city of Irvine. And for those who didn't know, it had multiple parts. It had a monthly social activity, monthly social discussions, prizes. At one point, we had a buddy program. And we completed the grant in September. We're still offering the program. But what we decided to do is, a lot of times people want to join, and we've been offering it quarterly. And so we decided that we'll be doing it a la carte. So each event will be promoted separately versus you sign up for a quarter. And then also we decided that the discussion part wasn't going to be part of that. We may look at doing a social discussion as a separate thing, but we weren't going to bundle it with Friends and Fun, just so that more people can take advantage of it if they haven't signed up for the quarter. So that's a change. The Dr. Gantman sessions, we've tried some different things on, and what we decided to do was focus on adults and parents. So we're going to continue to do it 4 times a year for each group, but we're going to make one of those in person. So it's been done on Zoom, and we're going to make it in person. And then we're also looking to move it to Monday nights, because we heard from some people that Sunday mornings wasn't convenient for those that are going to church or something. So as you can see, it's a lot of changes from what we've been doing over the course of the last 10 years. So we're evolving it. Before we go into the planning portion of this, I want to just stop, find out how people feel about this. If something that we've said upsets you or you're concerned about it, we want to know, because nothing's in stone, but we're just trying to figure out how to best serve you and how to offer services in a way that's more accessible. So any comments or questions? And you can put them in the chat if you'd like. Okay. All right. So let's move on to the main part of the meeting. This I put in last time, but the world's been changing, and a lot of it has had an impact on our community. Changes to Department of Education has had impact on funding. We went through this whole thing with the budget, and people lost their SNAP benefit for a while. So things continue to change, and the most important thing you can do is be mindful that it's changing, and that may end up having, watch your email, watch your mail. There's been some discussion of, if you're on SNAP, which is the food service that federal government provides, they said, oh, a whole bunch of people are receiving it who are dead. And so they're going to make everybody reapply. So you got to know, okay, you know what? I may need to reapply for this. Or they may change the rules on Social Security or whatever. And so you need to just be extra alert. Read your email, read your letters that come in the mail. Go to webinars on these topics. Be sure to stay up on these, because our benefits are really important, and it's all of our jobs to manage those. So I'm just words of warning. Okay, so this is my little story here. This is Josh. Josh is now 34. So this was when he graduated from, I think, Cal State Fullerton. And he was diagnosed at just before he turned 4. He did ABA. It was back when there was an ABA. We called it LOVAS, because that was the professor at UCLA who created the therapy. He graduated from high school with a degree in 2010, went to IVC for 5 years, and then transferred to Cal State Fullerton. And then right after he graduated, he was going to start a internship through the Regional Center paid internship program, and COVID hit. So that screwed that up. He then did a program called AFA Hub, which is a Taylor Day program by the Regional Center that focuses on skills like filmmaking and animation and After Effects and game design. And so he did that. And then I started the Autism and Entertainment work group in 2023, and we had a conference in 2024. We got a grant, which is part of the reason why I'm going to be cutting back on OCSG, so I can have more time to work on autism and entertainment. He's had a paid internship with Regional Center where he works on films. I signed him up for Section 8 housing when he was like 18, and we finally got it maybe 2 years ago. He lives in a condo with his one of his longtime friends. He moved in just this year. We got self-determination with Regional Center in 2024, and he, over this year, we worked on a plan where he could spend some time in Vancouver and manage to, kind of spend time in Vancouver and come back here. So that's the Josh's story. And I tell you this just because every single step along this way was a project, right? We all know that, getting through high school is a project, getting through college is a project, getting a place to live is a project. So, and to get projects done, you have to know what you're trying to do and then just work it every day. So that's really kind of should be inspiration, or at least you guys are all doing it, and kind of the shared experience. I say life is a journey. It's not a race. It takes us longer. So don't feel a sense of competition with other people. We may have friends whose kids are in AP classes and are going to Harvard, and it looks like their life is perfect, or everything's all together. But it's a journey, and we all have a different life experience. So the first thing I want you to do is figure out where you're going. Figure out a vision of where you want to be in 3 to 5 years. What do you want your life to be like, or your child's life to be like? And take a few minutes and visualize that. So we have this vision, but there's things that are in our way. I mean, Stacy talked about getting a degree, or what are the things that you need to do? What are your challenges that are preventing you from achieving your goal? So let me share my screen again. So we're going to go back to our planning at the very end. But what I'm going to do now is just kind of share some resources and kind of help you get grounded. So we did this in 2018. This is kind of what helped me figure out what everybody needed. And this was a survey of our group and what were their biggest challenges, their top concerns. And for those that have said employment, that was number one, and it continues to be very high on the list. People on the spectrum, the national number is, between 75 to 85% are unemployed or underemployed. And so this continues to be a challenge. And then friendships, and then, other things as well. So if these are the things you're dealing with, know that you're not the only one. A lot of people have challenges that they're dealing with. So I put together this chart as a way of thinking about all these challenges. And as a parent, it feels overwhelming and unending because you go through one area and you get that under control, and then you're working on another thing. And then like 5 years later, you're dealing with a different stage of the same issue. So each area, whether it's healthcare or a diagnosis or government benefits or whatever, they're all challenging. They're all complex. I was just changing where my son was working, and it took me 9 months working with Social Security just to get that done. And I had like a whole sheet of all the conversations and the different people and all that. So that was like just a simple thing, So everything's complex. Sometimes it's expensive, and sometimes it just takes a ton of resources. So if you're feeling challenged, that's what. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through each one of these things. I have a bonus one, which is housing. And kind of, I'll give you an overview of some different ideas, some different experiences. Maybe some people here have other ideas, and share that with you. And whichever challenge that you're dealing with on your list, hopefully some of them overlap here. Okay. This is just something for you to be aware of. One of the people that came to speak with us this year was Linda O'Neill. She runs the local partnership agreement, and they have a family group, and they put together this life care portfolio. It's a framework for putting together kind of the user's guide for your child. So who's his dentist? What's all, does he have a special needs trust? What's that? All the different elements. And it allows you to upload them so that if something ever happens to you, they can just have this life care portfolio and everything is in there. So I can give you a link to it if you're interested. Okay. So we talked a little bit about what people accomplished in 2025. I'm going to just kind of move on. So when I present this, normally I have upcoming meetings and recorded meetings. We're only going to really have recorded meetings because Robin and I are doing this differently. And at the end of the session, we're going to ask you what kind of webinar would you like us to put together for this next year. So, you'll see, we've had all sorts of different people, but we thought we're a little behind on planning because we're kind of rethinking everything. And with the transition from me to Robin, not quite as way ahead of things that I usually are, and we thought we'd use that to our advantage to better understand what kind of information you need so that we can better meet your needs this next year. So in each of these slides, you'll see a bunch of little boxes. Those are webinars that are relevant to that topic. So first is diagnosis. We've had a couple of speakers on that. Dr. Lindsay Sterling really breaks it down, and she does diagnosis. She's in Long Beach. So if you haven't gotten a diagnosis yet, there's some resources there that talk about getting a diagnosis. There are some important dates. So if you want to get SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, you need a diagnosis before the age of 22. I think, you know, one of our members was talking about getting regional center, and there the disability must originate before the age of 18. I have seen a number of people they didn't have to have the formal diagnosis by age 18, although that would be a lot easier. They needed to have, you know, maybe they showed reports from doctors or information from their school, and they were able to justify it. I want to also say that there's a webinar that we had with the doctor associated with the regional center about, and one of the things he talks about is kind of qualifying for regional center services. Hopefully I have it in a later slide. It's really interesting. We spend a lot of time talking about all our accomplishments, and with regional center, they have some specific requirements that you need. I think probably when I go into government, I have that information. So we'll talk about that there, but you just need to be mindful when you apply. These are some different places you can go to get a diagnosis. You can get it paid for through private health insurance, perhaps, or we have heard of government agencies helping pay for the diagnosis. So one thing that's really important, in fact, this is not quite that notebook, but I just worked on this today because I actually cleaned my office, which needed it. And this is like a book of Josh's benefits, but keep all your paperwork, keep your diagnosis, keep all those reports, because you'll be surprised when you're going to be asked to produce those things like that again. And so don't throw anything away. You may feel like a pack rat, but you know, that's something to be sure and maintain. I mean, if you upload it to your computer, that's fine, but just keep it handy. Okay, the next one is healthcare. So what you may not know is that the Affordable Care Act, which is still around, may change, which has a provision for adult children. So if you're working and you have healthcare and you have a child that's 26, normally that child would no longer be able to be on your health insurance. However, because of the Affordable Care Act, if they're autistic or, you know, they have another disability, you can continue to receive benefits for them through your employment. When I did this, it wasn't easy. I did it really early on because my son's 34, so I must have done it 8 years ago or something. And you know, you may have to go to their human resources. You may have to go to the insurance company. They pretend like they don't know about this, but this is your right. And again, having that diagnosis is handy. If you qualify for SSI, then you get Medi-Cal with SSI. This is like a helpful hint. Kaiser offers insurance through SSI, but only if it's grandfathered in. So let's say you're on Kaiser and then your son or daughter gets SSI, then you can request to have Kaiser services. I did that. I actually, one year, I normally didn't do Kaiser, but I went at work, I selected Kaiser, and then I got my son on it, and then I was able to put him on it through with SSI, which I preferred because I felt like the services were just more robust through Kaiser than, because you're dealing with a network that's associated with Medi-Cal, and that may be more limiting. So that's just a helpful hint. Also, we're going to talk about SSI and how you qualify for it, but Medi-Cal is also available through the Orange County Social Services. I bring that up because if you then move on to SSDI, and we'll go through what those are in a little bit, you, after 2 years of a waiting period, you then get Medicare, which is for those that I now receive Medicare. It's it has a great network of healthcare. Normally it's the Advantage program for the healthcare, but you have to wait 2 years. And so you may no longer be on SSI, you're on SSDI, so you don't qualify for Medi-Cal anymore. So during that 2 years, you can get Medi-Cal through the Orange County Social Services. Here, these are a couple of insurance people talking about insurance. And Tiffany works for the insurance company that covers Medi-Cal here. And Paula works for she works for Easter Seals, who offers the support for autism for Kaiser clients. So these are a couple of good webinars that you might be interested in. I say plan ahead, approve, it takes a long time. Okay, government, okay. So there are a number of organizations that can be helpful in terms of benefits. And so the first one is the Regional Center. The Regional Center isn't actually a government. It's actually a group of nonprofits that were mandated by the state of California. And so it's a network of 21 of these very independent regional centers. So they all operate differently. We're serviced by Orange County. And what is good about it, it's lifelong. So in theory, although I've heard exceptions, in theory, once you're a regional center client, you can stay a regional center client. So Josh was diagnosed at 4, and he continues to be a regional center client. With regional center, they are kind of the secondary support. So what that means is that they will, if you're in school, they make the school pay for things first. So it's only if the school doesn't pay for it that they'll kick in. So why that matters is usually regional center is more critical in the preschool time. So if you got diagnosed at 2 and they're not quite at the preschool, regional center would be kicking in as the primary, assuming that there's not coverage through your insurance carrier. And then when they turn 18, then regional center kicks in. So why it's important, since we have been focusing on teens and adults is important, is that they have a lot of services for adults. And so you're going to want to, that's why a lot of our group ends up trying to get regional center services after the age of 18 if they haven't had it already. It's better to try and do it earlier. The earlier, the better, because the way they look at it, people evolve and they learn skills, and so they might not look as, we work really hard on independent skills, and so they may not be look like they need the services as much as they get older. So one of the we do have a session recorded where they actually talk about what they look for in terms of the requirements to be a regional center client. Another thing to think about is self-determination. So this is something that got put in place for the regional centers, which fundamentally is a different way to manage your budget. So there's a budget of money that's being spent if you're a regional center client on services for you. And a lot of times we find that our 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 cohort of people tend to not fit like the standard regional center clients. And so the vendors and the services offered aren't really what we're looking forward for our child. And so what self-determination does is it lets you manage the budget. And so you don't have to choose vendors, and you can choose, hey, I know a renowned chef and my kids wants to cook. I'll set up services with Wolfgang Puck, so, I mean, you can choose who delivers those services. Again, it's a process. You have to go through an orientation, which got improved tremendously. So it's just a 2-hour webinar. You then work with an independent facilitator that helps you put together a plan, a set of goals, and then that gets approved by the regional center, and then you put together a budget with a clear plan of who you want to use. That gets approved, and then they set up a financial services organization who is the one who actually does the payment. So people send you the invoices, you approve them, send them to the financial services company, and they pay it. So it's a good, like I said, a lot of our goals are complex and expensive. And so this gives you some extra budget to spend on just the right services you need to achieve your goals. We've had several people come and speak on self-determination. Jim Hayek is a benefits advocate. This is really, really important stuff. And you wouldn't go to court without hiring a lawyer. At least I wouldn't. And he used to be a regional center director, and he's a good person. I work with him. There's probably other people out there. But if you want someone to help you along the journey to try and get this approved, I recommend him as somebody and he's given talks about benefits, so you can kind of get a taste for him. But he can help you navigate the application process and, help advise you as you move along. So there's SSI and SSDI. This is through Social Security. SSI is means tested, which means it's based on how much money you have. You can't have more than $2,000. And there's a whole bunch of rules like that. It starts, the earliest you can get it. Well, you can get it as a child if your parent, but they'll look at the parent's budget. But as an adult, then you can qualify on your own. And then SSDI is called the Adult Child Benefits. So SSI, it's just income that comes in. I'll go a little bit more into detail on this. But SSDI is based on actually somebody's benefit. So in most cases, it is based on the parent receiving their Social Security. So with my family, my husband, I had him take Social Security earlier than he might have. He took it at 64 versus waiting to 70 because I wanted to convert Josh from being on SSI to SSDI. It was more money, and also as you go into the details of how these work, I feel like SSDI has more is a better program. You get Medicare, for example, things like that. So that's something to be mindful. But you have to be receiving your Social Security in order to qualify. Okay. This was a few years back, but this was, basically how many people had what. I mean, I should do it now. I know a lot of people, like Robin's an example, but as we've done this through the years, I've seen a lot of people, this is like one of usually their area of focus, been able to increase the benefits that they were receiving. And for those that said Asperger's, that was not a diagnosis. Even back in the day, when Asperger's was considered a separate diagnosis, that was not one that would immediately get regional center support. So you're better off calling it autism than Asperger's with the regional center. Okay, so I said SSI is means tested, so you have to be eligible, you have to have no more than $2,000 as an individual or $3,000 as a couple. That's your assets. After you get it, you have to stay within that. So you can't save, go work, and now I've got $5,000 in the bank, because you're going to lose your SSI. So there's workarounds, but that's an important aspect of it. They don't count everything. They don't, if you own a home, they don't count that. If you have a car, they don't count that. They don't count your personal, your Xbox or your clothing or whatever, or burial plots. So this way, managing this is one of the reasons why people do special needs trusts, and for example, my son had some bar mitzvah money, and so he had more than that amount of money. When we set up a special needs trust, we were able to move his money into the special needs trust, so then it didn't count towards the $2,000. Another way that you can manage your resources is what's called an ABLE account. I don't know if I'm going to go into that in more detail, but fundamentally it was set up as a way of allowing people to have a better life and not living within this ridiculous $2,000 limit. And so an ABLE account is kind of like a savings account. Anyone can contribute. I think there's a few more slides, but it's a way of increasing your assets or improving your quality of life without having it impact SSI. So in 2026, so next year, the maximum SSI benefit is $994 a month. There are important things to know that different sources of income have an impact on how much money you get. So if you earn money, for every $2 you earn, you lose $1 of benefit. So if you make, you work at In-N-Out and you make $500 a month, then you're going to lose $250 of the $994. They'll pull that money out. Unearned income like gifts and stuff, they'll take $1 per dollar. I think there's like an $80 waive of where they won't take anything. This is an important one, which is food and shelter. So them living, if they live with you, you need to charge them rent. And because they'll take away up to a third of your benefit, $1 for dollar. They'll estimate the fair value of your house, and if they're living rent-free, then they'll take that money out of the $994. The earliest that you can apply for SSI is a month after the 18th birthday, and it is a lot of work. And because you need to show all the complete medical history, but you also need to show the employment history. But, it's great to have that as a source of income. Okay, this is SSDI, which is another name is the Childhood Disability Benefit. It doesn't have the same financial requirement, but the parent typically needs to be on Medicare. And what they get is, it doesn't reduce the parent's Social Security benefit, but it's based on that. So if your Social Security benefit is $2,000, then you get your $2,000 and your child would get basically 50% of that $1,000. At your time, if you die, then it increases to 75%. So this is a little chart I put together that compares it. So with SSI, the maximum cash you can have is $2,000. That's not an issue with SSDI. Parents need to be receiving Social Security or be deceased. This is the size of the benefit. There's none of that in-kind issue with rent, but there are different rules about how work is treated. It's really, so you don't lose your income the way you do with SSI, but if you make over a certain amount of money, it triggers this whole evaluation and trial work period, et cetera, that I don't completely understand because I haven't gone through it. But it basically is like, if you, it basically will look at whether you're making enough money that you will no longer receive the benefit. I've done a bunch of work on this. This is a problem for me, and I hear it from parents too, and that having these benefits is great, but it can also be a disincentive. We did a survey in California, and we heard from people from 43 of the 58 counties in California. Mostly it was from parents and representative payees. And of that, over half of them were people with autism. Of the people responding, and we fundamentally were looking at whether fear of losing your benefits was impacting whether you wanted to work or not. And of the people who responded, 40% had some kind of work experience. About half are currently working, half have previously worked. Okay, and so of the people who responded, 67% said fear of losing Social Security benefits impacts their decision to work. So they were scared to work because they were worried if they worked, they would lose their benefit. And of that, 42% said it was a major factor. Now, this was kind of an interesting thing. So is this just a fear or is it based on reality? And the answer was it was based on reality. Because, and I did this work because I was hearing all these stories of people losing their benefits or getting letters where they had to pay money back, and it was problematic. So of the 40% who worked, 75% had problems with Social Security. They had gotten a letter saying something during while they were working. The top issue was overpayment notices. So 76% received overpayment notices. So remember I talked about that $2,000 limit. Well, one day you may have $2,500, and if they eventually find that out, they may say, you know what, you've had that for 5 years. You owe us all those $994 checks for the last 5 years. You have to pay it back. It's kind of like if you checked out a book in kindergarten and you forgot to return Curious George, and then you graduated from high school and they said, you know what, you never turned in Curious George. You got to go build a library for us because that's how much money you owe. And that's kind of how this is, because there's no requirement or time that Social Security has to do an audit and let you know or anything. They can come back and do this anytime. 40%, 39% had their benefits terminated. So a lot of these Social Security benefits are based on whether they determine that you have the ability to earn a living wage and whether you can work or not. And so if you can work enough, or they think you can, then they say, you know what, you're not disabled. Because disabled is kind of likened to I got run over by a train versus I have a mental health, I have, issues. And so they just say, okay, you can work. 15% lost their medical insurance, and like I said, 11% actually were told that they were no longer disabled. So this is real. I have a bunch of papers on this. I was going to do a lot on it this year, but interestingly enough, I didn't put it on my goals. And the reason is I just worry that this might be used against as a reason why someone would say, well, we shouldn't have Social Security at all because it makes people fearful of working, and they'd all work if they didn't have it. So anyway, it's just something to think of, but it does tell you that it's really important to keep your paperwork. It's really important that you understand these things, because you can get one of these letters and you need to be prepared. Josh went through, one of our goals this last year was I decided I'd take Social Security because my benefit was greater than my husband's. And also Josh had gone through a financial review, because they do that periodically. And so I've kind of felt like, well, this is a good time to do it because we already did all that paperwork. And when they did the review, they wanted Josh's salary history going back to 2010. It's 2025, so that's 15 years of salary history. We all think, oh, I did my taxes, I only need to keep that information for 3 years. But with Social Security, it's different. Some government work-related organizations is the Department of Rehab. That's a lot easier to get as a benefit. It's case-driven in that you qualify, but then you say, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to help me get a job. Once you get the job, then the case closes and you're done. Versus, like I said, regional center is lifelong. Workability, that's a form of support from DOR that's offered at schools. So if your child's in high school, they would be eligible for workability. Then there's some in community college. There's supposed to be some in college, but I've yet to find a college that is offering workability. And then Ticket to Work is like one of those programs that lets you, work and in theory, like the work won't count against Social Security, or there's some special things. So these are different kinds of programming. So we've done a lot of webinars on regional center, DOR, and if this is something that could be helpful. Also, DOR has paid people's tuition, so at colleges. So that's like there's benefits there for you that you should know about if you're looking for some support in terms of work related. Okay. So I'm going to stop on government. So I've done diagnosis, I've done healthcare, I've done government so far. Any questions so far? This is probably a good time to take a break. Any questions on any of that?
I have a question. This is Sylvia.
Yeah. Hi, Sylvia.
Hi. So the SSDI benefit, is there a way to get that approved if somebody was diagnosed after the age of 22?
I don't know. There probably is. I mean, there's probably a way to demonstrate that it happened beforehand, but I don't know. That would be something like Jim Hayek could help you with.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. So parenting.
Did you,
Yeah.
was this 25 years you said about Social Security keeping the documents, or you said 3 years for the IRS?
No, that's like the IRS, but with Social Security, keep it forever, Savag.
Okay.
Yeah, just keep all your paychecks. I know when I talked to your mom about it, she thought, well, the IRS said that it, if I do report you're actually supposed to report your wages to Social Security. So,
But doesn't the IRS do it for you, or I have to
no,
do it as
no,
well? Oh,
you should do it as well.
okay.
But is Shogig there? Shogig,
Yeah.
you may want to get some support from the regionals. I know you work at the regional center. Get some support for them and talk to them about it.
Okay. I'll let her know.
Yeah.
I'll call her over.
Yeah. There's a person there's a role called a WIPA that can help you with working with these government agencies on
Okay.
employment-related stuff. And I don't want to tell you to go do something and then have you get in trouble, Bob. So I'd rather
Okay.
have you get some support. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Thanks.
All right. There's a couple questions. I can't see the name, but the one that has a cute little doggy. Is that as your screensaver?
Hi, I was going to ask for the SSI, do you need to have a recent diagnosis? Like if your most recent was at 3 years old, do I need to like go get him an updated one at 18 before applying?
No, you can just turn that in, but they will ask for the whole history. And then one of the final steps is they send you to some pathetic person to diagnose you. And they're not really diagnosing you. They're just saying, oh yeah, okay, this person has autism. And they don't usually know anything. So, but yeah, don't go and get another diagnosis. You don't need that. Yeah, there's a question there. I don't see these people's names. Hold on, let me. Diane?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for this presentation, by the way. We're just running into one problem with the Department of Rehab. They seem to almost be purposely dragging their tails when it comes to my son, their feet. And any suggestions of how maybe getting someone or
Ask for a supervisor, bring it up a level. Remember, they're just people and they're overworked. But so be nice.
Be nice.
Don't get angry. But
because I feel like, do I be nice with the supervisor or do I put on my legal hat?
No.
Tell them you violated this date.
Be nice and just find out what do you need to do to get this done. If it goes on after you were nice and you're talking to the supervisor, then maybe, you get more legalistic. But I find that being nice works better usually. But if you're not getting them to respond to you, find out why. A lot of times what happens, and I don't know your situation, Diana, and I don't know where it's getting hung up, but a lot of times they'll do the communication directly with your child.
Right.
And they'll say, well, we asked for this, or they were supposed to sign that, or what, something was like an assignment for them. And if they don't hear back from them, then, and they've tried 3 times or some magic number, then they'll close the case. So they're all about closing the case. And so a lot of times there may be a requirement or something that they ask for that you're not even aware of. And they don't necessarily have to make you aware of it. And then, they close the case. So you need to be sure that, there wasn't some email sent to your son or daughter that they were asking for something.
Okay.
And,
Thank you.
and they have a whole process. I mean, we've had some, there's some videos of webinars that we've had with them, and they have like this whole process. They'll do an assessment, and sometimes it seems very tedious to get to the point where they'll help you find employment. So
No, I'm pretty sure this is, premeditated, and they're doing it because they asked for a continuance, and I told my son, do not waive the timeline.
okay.
So sometimes you can
Yeah.
read between the
Yeah,
lines,
well then
but I don't want to.
measure and say, why are they asking for the continuance? I don't understand where, we really want to get moving, So yeah, just
Thank you.
try to escalate.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if your child's also a regional center client, you might be able to get them to help you because they have a relationship.
Oh,
So
thank
talk to
you.
your service coordinator and say, hey, I'm having trouble with the regional center. Is there someone with DORs or someone at the regional center? Usually regional center has kind of a service coordinator that's someone who's responsible for employment related stuff. Like in Orange County, I don't know who it is now. It used to be Arturo. But they'll know the DOR person and can maybe help set up a meeting. You can ask them to help set up a meeting or something and get some services that way.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll continue. So parenting, I put, there's a separate slide here on parenting because parenting's tough. One thing that you may want to do if you have a young kid is regional center can fund parent training. We did that because, you can't get a driver's license without going through training, and somehow you're going to have a kid and know exactly what to do. And having a child on the spectrum is harder. And so just know that you don't know everything, and be open to training. It's the most important thing is to have a good relationship with your child. Don't try to do everything. It's exhausting, especially if you're still driving your kid at 22. So surround yourself with other resources if you can to help you. So, and especially as your kid ages, they don't want you to do everything for them, and they get annoyed. I remember I used to tutor my son in math. Well, one day, and I was a math major, and one day he got mad at me, and that was the end of it. And I had to bring in, I brought a tutor in, So don't try to do everything. If you can, leverage resources out there to make your life simpler. And if you're a regional center client, they can help you fund some of those resources. Teenage years are difficult. I'm sure we were all difficult as teenagers. and being on the spectrum doesn't make it any different, and so this is really an important period. There's high incidence of addiction to drugs, there's depression. These are tough times. And so being a parent during that, you need to be mindful of it and realize when you need additional help there. And being here is a good thing. The support group is a good thing because you can talk to other parents who are on the same journey as you. And, sometimes it's frustrating because you talk to your friends or you talk to your family and they don't know what your life is like. They don't know what your situation is like. So having support groups, is important. If you're regional center, get respite care, just take care of yourself. So just be mindful that being a parent is not easy. We had Michael Urim did a session on parenting that was useful. But I think the best thing to do is to come to our once a month Monday session where it's peer led and we, talk about parenting stuff. Also, Dr. Gantman does a parent session usually once a quarter or so. So that's a good place to go to get advice. Okay, I'm going to show this video. So one of the things that OCASG offers is we have a relationship with the Chance Theater, and I think for the last 7 years, we have helped fund a summer program for teens doing theater. And through that, they actually write their own show and perform it. And it's really a great opportunity, and it doesn't cost anything, and it's amazing. Well, it doesn't cost you anything. We help fund it. But anyway, this is a little video that I love to show because it was a scene from, I think, the very first performance that they did, and it's about therapy. Oh, wait, hold on. I didn't share properly. Let me do this again. Let me stop sharing.
I'm kind of lucky because I was diagnosed at a young age. OCD at age 1, autism at 2, and so on. ADHD, bipolar disorder, anxiety disorder. It's a party.
Oh, aren't you lucky? I have no idea. Autism? Yeah. One of my biggest afflictions being a teenager.
But never fear. There will be an endless parade of specialists to help you. Psychologists,
Cognitive behavioral therapist,
psychiatrists,
occupational therapist,
physical therapists,
behavioral therapist,
speech therapists.
Let's not forget all of the disorders comorbid with autism.
ADD, ADHD, OCD, Tourette's.
Auditory processing disorder. Sensory processing disorder. Sensory integration disorder.
Dermatillomania, trichotillomania,
Developmental coordination disorder.
learning disabilities,
Motor delays.
depression,
Anxiety.
meds can help.
And hurt.
They do their best to treat the symptoms that come along with living in a world where neurodivergence is blocked.
It's not like there's an autism pill. You try antipsychotics like Abilify and Risperdal. You want to go the FDA approved route. Boo!
So for now, we get antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds like fluoxetine, fluvoxamine, sertraline, paroxetine.
Don't worry, parents. We have not forgotten about you. Throughout this journey, you can expect to feel
Frustration,
fear,
anger, that
confusion,
crushing feeling when you do anything in the world to help your child, but you simply do not know what to do.
You'll become an expert on things you previously had no interest in.
You'll get to be a doormat as your child will blame you for everything and take their frustration out on you.
You will then have many useful discussions with teachers, doctors, and specialists as they tell you what you already know about your child and tell you to control the things you are already struggling with.
You'll become a pharmacist, a drugstore always open for business.
Say goodbye to sleep. Say goodbye to your social life.
As you begin this exciting chapter, remember that life is a journey, ups and downs, just like everyone around you. You're here, and that is the first step. This
Anyway, I just love that, their perspective on the journey is just so great. So let me see. Let me find where we are here. Okay, so this is just a short list of therapies. ABA, it's got a stupid name, Applied Behavioral Analysis. Basically, one of the reasons why it's at the top of the list is because it really, for me, was very key for Josh. It was work done in the 1980s, saying, hey, the way someone on the spectrum learns is different. And so it took everything that the curriculum was everything that a kid by kindergarten would know, and breaking it up into discrete trials and building up the knowledge through kind of Pavlovian style learning where, you know, get a reward for getting it right. And somehow it's been really effective. And because of that, there was a period of time where a number of the autism groups were able to argue about getting insurance companies to cover it. And because there was so much research proving its effectiveness, it became something that you could get funded through insurance. So in a sense, they've then broadened everything to sound like it was ABA, because that was the one place that you knew that you could get your insurance to cover. Peers is a program that, and the work was done at UCLA. So we're really lucky to live where we live. The Peers program is a social skills program. It's a 14 to 16 week program. UCLA continues to offer it, and there's a number of other organizations that offer peers, and the UCLA has some specific enhancements that they made, one for careers and one for dating. They offer it for teens, for adults, they even have it for young kids. Executive skills training, that's something that we've done. I have it online that if you want, you could watch I think it was about a 10-week or so series that we did teaching executive skills. And this is, you know, things like time management, or asking for accommodations, or being able to read, or memorization, or organizing your work, or all sorts of skills that can impact you from a studying point of view, but it can also impact you in terms of independence. Cognitive behavior therapy, that's the leading type of therapy that a psychologist will use with individuals on the spectrum who are challenged, and helping them. And we've had like sessions with Dr. Gantman going through and explaining a lot of these things. Nutritional therapy, you know, gluten-free, dairy-free diets, etc. Visual therapy, medications, hypnosis, martial arts. There's a ton. So years and years of research and work in different types of therapies. So we've had people come and speak about different kinds of therapies throughout the years. Okay, then there's education, right? Do I go public? Do I go private? Do I go diploma versus completion? Do I, you know, what kind of college should I go to? Should I go to private college, trade, and certification? I mentioned before that our Department of Rehab will help fund tuition. You know, so we've had a number of speakers. Jan works with College Blueprint, which can help with like one-on-one support, going through college, can help you get into college. Paul and Elisa talked about the IEP process. So when you're in school, getting an IEP and managing that, they spoke about that there. Okay. This was, again, back in 2018 when I felt like doing a survey versus just doing all the work. A lot of our folks get, you know, graduate from college. Some get postgraduate PhDs, you know, so many, which is part of the reason why it's frustrating that they're having a challenge getting work, because it's not that they're not smart. So. Okay, psychology versus therapy. I don't know, maybe we could put them under the same one. So there's medication. There's different psychologists. We've had Dr. Corey came and spoke to us. He's a psychiatrist, and also Dr. Gantman, I think, had a session on medication. But and I had him do a session. Usually once a year he does a session. I had him do one where it was really kind of a question of, where does autism start and where does mental health? Because it seems hard to figure out, you know, my child's having problems, but is this just autism, or is there a mental health issue that I need to be mindful of? And so it can be confusing. But it's really important, you know, if that's one of your top issues, you should definitely be thinking, I got to do something about that sooner than later. Social skills, I talked about peers. We've had different people talk about social skills development. We've had different, I think last year, it's not on here, but we had a session on dating. So there are, you know, we did the Friends and Fun program where we were encouraging people to talk about social experience and learn about it. So there are peers, but there's other ways of, you know, just getting out there and having some activities and some experiences, and being part of OCSG is a good way to meet other people. I think this was about Friends and Fun. Okay, so relationships are really important, whether it's with your parents or other folks. Just, you know, if you have a close family or you have friends, leverage those in building as many relationships that are there for your kid. This is my son Josh with his friend Josh, and they are now roommates. So here, was them, I think, when they first met in elementary school. And so we were able to maintain that relationship through the years. There's also professionals that you need to have relationships with. So we had, this was the session on dating that we had. Lindsay did one on social relationships. Jeremy Hamburg, who's with My Best Social Life, has given some. Chelsea O'Hare talked about relationships and focused on parenting. This was on relationships, partnering, and Keela Parkinson is actually the person who wrote a book on it and leads our support group on partnering. So this is about Toastmasters. So actually, I think it's been 13 years, not 10 years. I haven't updated this slide. So this is unique to OCSG. This is something I started back in, 13 years ago. So I think it was 2012. And it was seeing that Toastmasters, which is a public speaking program, is a good fit for individuals on the spectrum. Since then, I've been working with Sasha Zedek and Yaz Balerian on a research project looking at whether Toastmasters is an effective way of helping not only improve communication skills, but leadership skills, independent skills, you know, a lot of things, and set a sense of self-worth. So this is a little video on Toastmasters. So.
As far as the Gavel Club, that has just been an amazing springboard for him to develop socially. Watching his progress and all of the people involved in Gavel Club, to see their progress from when we started a couple years ago until now, They've just blossomed with their confidence and speaking skills. And I think most importantly, their social skills. They've developed friendships. We all have.
Yeah. As a recent college graduate seeking a full-time job, I have great interest about the impact of COVID on the job market and the future of work. From what we can observe so far, the pandemic has affected in-person services and high digital skills in very different ways. Well, it's helped me develop more self-confidence and social skills. Learn how to prepare and structure speeches and evaluations, and improve communication skills.
At that point, because things turned out so sour, I could have decided I would have hated the world and had more bitterness towards the world. But I decided, I realized I had a choice at some point and decided I didn't want to live like that.
In one of my last speeches, I was talking about the death of Superman, and I mentioned Batman in that speech. In this speech, however, I'm not going to be talking about the Dark Knight himself. I'm going to be talking about one of his main villains. But it's not going to be the Joker, the Penguin, the Riddler, Scarecrow, Two-Face, Ra's al Ghul, or Catwoman, you see right here. It's going to be this man, Bane.
You know, certainly the Gavel Club, you know, is really helpful in, you know, improving Kenny's communication skills, learning how meetings are structured. You know, he's pretty introverted, so just having a group, a community, I think is really important for us both.
Lastly, even though we love to scare ourselves, mankind's greatest fear is the unknown. For the fear of the unknown is one of the most natural and instinctive fears that we have. This is because people love the world to make sense by having things wrapped up in nice, neat little packages, because our world is easier to engage in when things make sense. So some may choose to further engage with the unknown in order to make best sense of the world. Ever since joining Gavel Club, I got a little bit better at speaking in public and creating my speeches. When I first started Gavel Club, I would speak fast and people couldn't understand my words. I'm getting better right now. I'm now speaking more slowly and clearly, though sometimes I will slur my words and speak too fast. But other times I do speak slowly and clearly enough so people can understand me, and I'm getting better at organizing my speeches, depends on the topics. Into the proper, I'm getting better at practicing my speeches and not reading directly from my note cards and directly looking at the camera. And I'm also glad I'm able to make some more friends beyond my coworkers at work, and I think it's really healthy.
Perfect. Thank you, Lauren. So we meet on the second Saturday of the month at 9:30. We've been doing it on Zoom since COVID, and I haven't gotten back to doing it in person really because of just time. But it's been really helpful, and there's a bunch of people here that are in it, and it's really built a sense of community. And I've seen so many people just be happier because they found friends. So then there's life skills, you know, whether that's career, whether it's being able to advocate for yourself, whether it's, you know, taking care of your own place, being able to manage your finances. So it may be that that's the challenge. We've had some different people talk about it. Speaking of Toastmasters, Tom Island wrote a book. He's a distinguished Toastmasters, and he wrote a book. And he also is a life coach, and we had a session this year with 3 different life coaches. The those can be funded through self-determination money. We had some people that are teach independent skills. So this is, there's some good ideas out there on our YouTube channel. Work, as we mentioned, is tough, and there's underemployment. This was based on that survey that I did in 2018. You saw that, there's some people who've never worked. There's some people who have worked, but they're not working now. But, when you look at the percentage of people that are working and are happy, it's not what we want it to be. So this was just of our group, and that was 20%. There's a lot of resources. This doesn't even begin to show all the different resources that we've had. Every year we do a session in April on either autism at work or neurodiversity at work, where we hear about resources. There are private programs. Regional Center has a program called the Paid Internship Program, which is just an amazing program because it'll pay up to 1,040 hours of salary for a regional center client to work for another organization, but they don't even have to put you on the payroll. You get paid through a third-party financial organization. And so it's a great way to get work experience without having to make somebody hire you. Project Search is a great internship program for regional center clients. It's an 11-month rotation. There's a Chalk and UCI and Kaiser have programs. Job Coach is support while you're working. DOR has apprenticeship programs. Workability we talked about. And then there's a bunch of nonprofits that have different kinds of career programming. This is Linda O'Neill's organization she runs, but these are all sorts of different people working on transition plans and trying to help with employment. These are companies that are part of a neurodiversity at work program. So there's organizations all around that are making special efforts to increase employment. Here's a playbook that goes through strategies for offering employment to neurodivergent individuals. So there's a lot of resources out there if that's what you want to focus on. Financial, so obviously, your finances are built on a variety of sources. So employment, we talked about Social Security, life insurance, that can be a good source of income at some point. I talked a little bit about ABLE accounts, and then special needs trusts. We've had several attorneys talk about special needs trusts. We had Stuart this year and Susan in previous years. Courtney is a financial advisor.
I don't understand.
Oh, sorry. And then we had a session with fiduciaries who can help manage, serve as a trustee for after you're gone. So it's important that you not only make a plan for now, but think about the future. I mentioned this ABLE account a couple of times. I'm not sure if this is the right level. I didn't go back and look at this, but the idea is it's a special kind of savings account that allows you to accumulate some wealth and pay for things without impacting SSI. So you can, like a way that I used it was when Josh was living in the dorms, it exceeded really what he could have afforded through Social Security, but I didn't want to pay for it myself because then that would have counted against him. That would have been income coming in for him to pay for living expenses. And so by setting up the ABLE account, we were able to pay for dorm fees without it impacting him. And it's like a 401k or, some account in that they do make investments, and you can accumulate up to, say, $100,000 without it really having it. And you can do more, but without it impacting your benefits. This is some information on a special needs trust, but it's really an important thing for you to consider in terms of planning for your future. Because if something happens to you, you need to have a plan for how is your child going to be taken care of. I've seen situations where families didn't have a plan, and when that child ends up having a very difficult time trying to navigate without the financial support or the right oversight after you're gone. Okay, this is outside the scope, but finding a home has been a big issue for our members. I mean, part of the issue is really a question of cost, because with all these people unemployed, they don't have enough money to pay for an independent living. So so anyway, I think that's part of the reason that housing is hard. Part of the reason is having the right kind of housing situation. So these are some resources. So Section 8 housing is like this impossible government program put on by HUD that will pay for 2/3. They'll pay if you're only responsible for 1/3 of your income paying for housing. So they basically help fund housing. This is like Haley's Comet. Like once every 10 years, they even open up the waiting list, and then you get on the waiting list, and that could be another 10 years. So if it ever opens up, we'll let you know, and you should sign up for it, because really a great benefit, but it's difficult. We had Regional Center, we had Jack Stanton come several times and talk about different housing support that the Regional Center provides. And there are a lot of really interesting options. I think we need more on this, but I would recommend watching Jack's session, because you'll learn, and if you're a Regional Center client, you'll learn a lot more about different housing options that are available. We had a number of people talk about different affordable housing options. So like there's the Irvine Community Land Trust. These are like low income housing units. And it's a typo, it says Irving, it should say Irvine. But there are a variety of those. Again, it feels like a lottery, but if you get in on those, you can really get a much more cost-effective rent than standard. I've seen people get it. Usually, like in Irvine, they'll reserve a number of units for Regional Center clients. So, these are things to look into. These are just a couple from the presentation that Jack gave. And it's interesting, the different types of living situations. So there's group homes, there's community care facilities, there's just different kinds of living situation. I mentioned earlier that my son is spending time in Vancouver, and here he lives in a condo. He has a roommate. It actually is a Section 8 housing, so he pays less for rent. But when we wanted him to spend some time in Vancouver, he needed to be with people. I didn't want him isolated, and he's doing something called shared living, and there he's living with a family. And in Canada, they pay for that kind of facility. We're private paying, but there's those kind of options. So you need to think through what kind of living situation, and maybe explore, understand better what is available out there, or maybe do something yourself. Speaking of doing something yourself, I wanted to share a couple of really exciting programs that are in Southern California. So this one is called the Cornerstone Housing for Adults with Disabilities. A lot of it was funded through Batya, which is a family who run a nonprofit. And this is a brand new facility that's opening up in West LA. It's like near Pico and Fairfax, that area. And this is a multi-story facility. The bottom level is retail, and this is for individuals with autism. It has, I believe, 24 units. There's singles, there are 1 bedrooms, there's 2 bedrooms, and it has parking. And part of the reason they do retail is because they wanted people to be able to get jobs working here. And so this is a new facility that's opening up. And this one isn't cheap necessarily. It's not like it's, but it's, market prices. But if you want a very supportive kind of environment, this is a great option. And it just shows you it's really hard, okay? And I know I'm going to give you my usual speech. I know a lot of you are focused on yourself and focused on your child. But to solve problems like this, we have to work as a community together. These things don't happen by you going to and saying, what do you have for me? These happen when you turn to each other and say, what can we do together? So there's another one being built in San Diego. Again, this is going to have multiple units. It's across the street from a YMCA, so they'll have activities there. And so they're working on getting funding to build this facility in San Diego. So I wanted to point those out because we should have one in Orange County. There is a meeting in Irvine on the 20th. So that's this week. I signed up for it, which it's a grant from HUD. Okay. And it seems like somebody could put together a proposal to see about getting funding from HUD to build one of these facilities, or to work with the Irvine company and look at, could we build one of these facilities? So I'm not going to take that on, I can tell you that, because I've got my hands full. But if somebody was really interested, there are things we can do to help solve the housing problem, but we're going to have to it's not going to get solved for us. Okay, so we covered a lot. Okay, so you can do it. You can solve these problems. I mean, every year I get 10 things done, and my son's life is far from perfect. He's far from perfect. I'm far from perfect. There's more problems to solve every year, which is frustrating. But you can solve a bunch of things and make your life better. And I've seen people have amazing lives. So I'm encouraging you to do it. And it takes knowledge, support, and resources. So we're going to go back to our planning document. And now we've talked about a bunch of things. So you can tell I haven't updated this, but it's the same list. So the question is, what are your most important goals? So I'm sure you have a lot of different things that you had as problems and your vision, but I want you to pick, look at all these different things we talked about and figure out which one is the top priority. Figure out what are the top 5 things you can work on. So why don't we take a few minutes, and I want you to work on that. And I find that your journey begins with one step. It may be watching a webinar. It may be calling a friend. It may be calling an expert. It may be meeting with your therapist. I know Dennis and I had a meeting and we're kind of confused what to do next with our son. And we decided, okay, let's just meet with a therapist and really talk about it. So that's our next step. So what I want you to do is look at the 3-4 things, the things that you're, and I always say keep it small, because if each one of these is a project, and it can get overwhelming if you try to solve all of them at the same time. You'll just drive yourself crazy. So prioritize and pick your projects. But think about, is there one thing you can do? What's the one thing you could do tomorrow or next week that will start you on your journey? Because as you take that step, you'll learn things, you'll meet people, and there's like a phase where you're researching, but then there's a phase when you're acting and you got to pull things together. So, what is it that you could do to move you forward? So, why don't you take a few minutes to think about that? Take a moment and hold on. And find out what topics would be helpful. I was saying next steps. So if we don't have a canned webinar for you already, is there some topic that you would appreciate? I want to thank everybody for hanging in there, and I hope you guys are successful in putting your plan. We aren't going anywhere. We'll be here for a virtual support peers meeting the end of this month, or next Monday. So if you want to join us there, you're welcome to. Okay, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.